Just ignore me. Yeah, hi there. These comments are for BA, and I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass a TOEFL IBT. And you're one of my students in the English language program at California State University, and you completed independent writing practice test number 28. Now, first of all, I'd recommend you need to develop your ideas a little bit more, and let's compare. So this is the essay that you wrote right here. So let's take a look at it, see how many words we have. So you wrote 253 words. Now here's one of your classmates right here. Let's take a look at her essay. So she wrote 476 words. So she actually did more than the requirement. So I'd recommend that for you, try to get closer to, instead of 253, try to get closer to maybe 350 to 450 words on this particular essay. That would be my recommendation. So let's take a look at some of your paragraphs. We'll work on doing some error correction. So in the first paragraph we have, I suggest, I would probably change this to, I suggest not opening a new movie theater in our neighborhood because we already have one movie theater. Now, in this case, to avoid the comma splice, you can put a period here. Then you could put also, there is no space to establish it. Maybe put a comma here. There are many things that we need. This is where I'm having trouble, though. You're combining so many sentences, it's hard to really understand what you're trying to say here. I think you want to say something like this. Maybe instead of, you might say here, maybe opening, you might say, instead of opening a cinema, you might use the word developers, give you a bit more specific vocabulary. Developers can substitute, you want to change this, can substitute the movie theater you might say for a big market, or a library, you might say, instead of it. So to avoid having that run-on sentence, you can connect this final idea together by putting maybe which can help the neighborhood more. Alright, so let's take a look at what you're doing in these body paragraphs now. So my neighborhood, do some more there. I think you want to say here, there are 2 movie theaters, which is enough I would just say which is enough for the area instead of region. Region kind of refers to a wider area geographically there. So you have, there are 2 movie theaters, which is enough for the area. Then you might say here, in fact, the movie theaters are never full, and sometimes are even empty. Okay, let's see here. So you have to, I think you want to say this, to tell you more about that, I will give you an example. See, there's no reason to separate these two paragraphs. I mean, if you're giving the example goes with the paragraph that you have right now. You don't have to create a new paragraph for this. So you say, one time I went with my cousin to movie theater to see a movie on a weekday because it was the first showing of the movie, and we were so... Now what you're doing here, you're doing what's called over-subordination. Over-subordination means you're just creating too many different sentences. You keep putting these connectors on there. At some point you have to have a period. So let me see what we can do here. Excited. And maybe here you can, instead of think, you can put the word thought. So we were so excited and thought that the movie theater, remember you're talking about something in the past, right? So when you talk about the past, yeah, use past tense verbs, and that keeps everything consistent. So we were so excited and thought the movie theater was going to be crowded. This is where you need to end. You definitely need to end your sentence here. How about this? Put a period here, then say, however, it was not, there are a few. You can't use it and there in the same sentence. That's very awkward. What if you just say there? Remember, you're in the past, right? So there were a few people however, there were few people in the theater unlike our expectations. So then you end the paragraph with a fact. I'm not sure what that means. Secondly, in our neighborhood, there is a space to build a theater because we have a crowded area. The problem is when you get to this paragraph, you move in a different direction. You're saying, I suggest to open a big market, but this is a topic for a different paper. You want to stay focused on why you don't want the movie theater in your neighborhood. That's where your argument is. That's where you have to provide your supporting examples, is to help back up that idea. But you went in a different direction near the end of the essay, which was probably not, I think, a good idea. Okay, so part of the difficulty here is we got to go back to your introduction and look at how you have framed this paper, because a lot of your paragraphs, they're just not connecting together very well. And it all really what happens is what you do in the thesis or the introduction, that will either make things more or less organized. So when we look in your introduction, you say, I suggest not opening a new movie theater. We already have one. There's also no space. And there are many things that we need. Instead of opening a cinema, developers can substitute the movie theater for a big market or a library, which can help the neighborhood more. So this is probably where you kind of go in the wrong direction. I wouldn't even use this in the introduction. So I would get rid of this and definitely get rid of this paragraph here, because you need to stay focused on the movie theater. So you have here, in my opinion, I suggest not opening a new movie theater because we already have one. Also, there's no space to establish it, and there are many things that we need. Even get rid of this idea, because you say there are many things we need. That's probably going to lead you in a different direction. So this is okay. So now we have our 2 key points. But what you have to do here is you need to develop this, your 29 here. You need to get about 100 words right here, and then each of your body paragraphs also need to be around 100 words, and that's going to put you at about 350, maybe to 400 words. That's going to show more development than what you have. So what you could do here in the introduction, you could create maybe some general statements first. Let me see if I can give you an idea what you can do. So you might say something like resonance. So we use kind of a sentence like this. This is what we call a general statement. So we have neighborhoods are places of relaxation in that residents, after coming back from a long day at work or school, want to come home to unwind and forget about the stresses of the day. You might say playing soccer, flying kites, and see what we've done so far. So we're kind of getting a little more narrow. Now I have to create some kind of a hook that will create a transition to the actual topic or your thesis. So let's see what we have so far. So you have neighborhoods are places of relaxation in that residents, after coming back from a long day at work or school, want to come home to unwind and forget about the stresses of the day. In addition, residents like to take their children to you can say nearby playgrounds, so that these little ones can get rid of some of their extra energy by playing soccer, flying kites, and swinging. And here comes our hook right here. So then you can say this, and then we have your sentence here. So now we have a more developed introduction, which includes some general statements, and then it narrows to your thesis. So we have 114 words now instead of 23. So let's see what we have. Let's read it one more time. So neighborhoods are places of relaxation in that residents, after coming back from a long day at work or school, want to come home to unwind and forget about the stresses of the day. In addition, residents like to take their children to nearby playgrounds so that these little ones can get rid of some of their extra energy by playing soccer, flying kites, and swinging. Of course, these residents. Now, see this sentence? This is the sentence in the sense of how I connect this sentence back to the previous sentence by saying these residents. But then I make a transition by mentioning the idea of entertainment and movies. And that now allows me to include my hook, which is then followed by the thesis. So you see, of course, these residents like entertainment such as watching movies. However, should a movie theater be built in the neighborhood? In my opinion, I suggest not opening a new movie theater in our neighborhood because we already have one movie theater. So if we make it fit what we said down there, say also there's no space to establish it. And then you develop each of your paragraphs here, right? So what is your score now? So you saw some of the changes I made. I actually made some changes in your introduction. I went ahead and did some error correction in some of your paragraphs. So based on the rubrics, let's take a look at them right now. So your paper, I'm putting the 2 range, so you're just not developed a lot. You don't have enough development in there. You have some trouble setting up your introduction, and you need to have better control over your language use, including both vocabulary and grammar. So your score here, I'm going to put you at about 2.0 out of 5, or 14 points out of 30 on this particular practice test. Now, if you take a look in the syllabus, if you go to page 5 or page 7, this is going to put you at 64% on this assignment. So what do you do? I think there's a lot of things you need to do here. The first one is to get more exposure. Try to get more exposure to the language, watching TV, reading more on a regular basis. It looks like you're just not that familiar with English language, so it's hard for you to put your sentences together in some logical, accurate order. So you got to work a lot on that. So in my course, I recommend going through the grammar lessons first. You can check out my grammar diagnostic pretest. That's going to be important. It'll tell you specifically which areas in the grammar part of my course you're having more trouble with. So in addition to working in the grammar section of my course, to get more comfortable with the whole process of writing, in-class writing, and taking these types of essay examinations, I'd recommend do probably maybe 4 to 6 writing practice tests between now and the final exam. That's going to help prepare you a little bit better, and you'll get more familiar with this type of writing. So eventually what you're trying to do, we see what you have here. This is what you want to try to do for the final exam. You want to try to really develop your ideas over 4 or 5 paragraphs and try to demonstrate that you have good examples to help support your ideas and so on. That's your ultimate goal right there. Now remember that the TOEFL is just a short writing assignment. It's only 350 to 450 words. At the graduate level, you'll be writing 20 to 30 page papers. This is going to be a whole different ballgame. The TOEFL writing is very easy, but graduate writing will be totally different from what we're doing here. This is just getting you used to the process of organizing, developing, and polishing your ideas. All right, anyway, thank you for completing this particular writing practice test. Hang in there, do some practice, and I look forward to reading your final exam.